watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along in your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Welcome everybody who's watching on Facebook. Good morning, you guys. How you doing today? Doing well? It is good to see you and be with you. Our staff had a phenomenal time down in Atlanta this last week at Catalyst Conference. It's a pastors and leadership conference. About 9,000 leaders down there, and it was great. We had a phenomenal time being able to be a part of that and come back refreshed. And so I just want to say thanks for allowing our staff the opportunity to get away. And like many of you in your jobs, you have moments where you do trainings and other things, and it was nice to be down there as a staff and to just take it in, because a lot of times we're on here, and did the lights come on, and this come on, and that happened, and so it's nice to just let someone else worry about all those things and not worry about the child ID that will pop up on the screen, and just enjoy what God has. And so I thank you guys so much for being a church that allows us those opportunities. And before we get into things today, we've been in a series, #blessed. Why do some people soar in their faith? Is we all have a journey with God. We're all running this race. Some people seem to always hit and do it well, and then we look at our life or the lives of other people, we go, oh, man, I feel like I am just spinning my wheels. I am not gaining traction. I'm not moving in this race at all, and I want to. We've been looking at, since the start of September, all the way through the end of October, at the most famous teaching of Jesus, Sermon on the Mount. And people were gathering, his disciples that were basically his students were gathering around, and then a crowd grew and grew. And so he took this opportunity in his very first teaching to really lay out some of the most foundational, very simple teaching. And so if you're one of those that goes, man, I just want to get deep, then I don't know that you'll really enjoy Jesus. Because Jesus was very plain. He talked about farming, fishing, and the simplicity of life. And unfortunately, we act much like children, which is why he talked plainly. Because while Jesus tells us all sorts of things that we should live like and honor, man, we get to be adults, and well, we don't always follow through with some of those things. And if you're a parent, you know what it's like to parent a child and tell them 1,000 times to put your shoes away, and 1,001 they decide they're still not going to do it. And so you're just like, that's why I have no hair, just pulling it out. And so thank God that he is patient with us even when we fall short. And I want to pray for us this morning as we get into today, that we'll be receptive to what God has in store for us. And so when we pray, God, I thank you for today. I thank you for Jesus, that we get to be a part of this. It's because of his life, love, and sacrifice and conquering death that we have this moment. May we not waste it. That our ears, that while we're hearing, that we will be receptive to what we're hearing. There will be roadblocks up because of our circumstances, our choices, our life experiences that will push up against the very teachings of your Son. May we hear and understand that we have these roadblocks. God, will you do the miraculous and tear those down so that we can honor you by not only hearing, but putting it into practice, that we would actually practice what we preach. God, thank you for loving us even in spite of all the mess that we make. It's in the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray this morning. Amen. Show of hands, do a little quiz here this morning. How many of you have ever traveled in a taxi, Uber, or Lyft before? Yeah, so quite a few of you. If you have never had this experience before, let me kind of paint the picture for you. It's creepy. Okay? There's no other way around. If you're a Lyft driver or an Uber driver or a cab driver, I love you, but let's be honest. There is something weird about getting in the car of a stranger to go to a place and you're paying them to do it, and it undoes, and nowadays we could do it. We don't even have to like get a phone book out and do all that. We can go against everything our parents told us. Don't talk to strangers. Don't get into a car with anybody you don't know. And instead we do the very thing where we bring up an application to call a stranger to come pick us up and get in a car of the person we don't know. And yeah, they could say all sorts of things on a background check, but we will always be suspects. And I had this opportunity it was about 3 years ago when a lot of these ride-sharing services were really getting off the ground. I was flying into San Diego, heading to Coronado Island, and as I flew into San Diego, you do that thing, and it's kind of like speed dating. You get out to the curb and you see all of the different transportation options waiting for you there, and all of them are looking at you like, come on, let's do this. And you start, and you look at and you size them up, you go, maybe, no, how did you get through all of this? Like you kind of size them up and there is a little bit of quick snap judgments in place. And so I say, you know what? I've been hearing about this thing called Uber. I'm going to try it out. And so I download the app pretty quickly and I log in. You got to put in your card information. And so it's like it's protected and whatever, and we all know that's not always the case. And so I hit send my location. And sure enough, almost instantaneously pops up a little face, and it's Ryan, and Ryan's going to pick me up. And he says that he's going to show up in a Honda. I think it was an Accord or whatever at the time, but he pulls up, and I can actually hear him before I see him. This was like a car out of like the Fast and the Furious. He shows up, and before I see him, I hear the boom, 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 and I was like, oh, this is a hip-hop concert is coming into the airport lane there. And then I see him pull up, and the paint job goes from like gold to like purple glitter, and I'm like, and then he has the wing on the back of the car. And I don't know exactly why we do this wing on a Honda Accord. But if you drive a Honda Accord and you have a wing, I volunteer my time to help you take it off because you drive a Honda Accord. And so he pulls up and I'm like, all right, maybe this is Vin Diesel picking me up and he just codename Ryan, but no. But he did look very suave. He looked like, if you've ever seen the movie Zoolander, Ben Stiller's character, he's all like decked out, and even as he pulls up, he doesn't get out of the car, he just rolls down the window and gives me almost Blue Steel. He just kind of get in. And so and so at this point, I'm like, this is good. Like, this is my first ride-sharing experience, and I'm riding with Ryan from Fast and the Furious, also the stunt double for Eric Zoolander. This is going to be good. But then I open, so every appearance says this is going to be amazing. And then I open the door. Have you ever, I'm trying to make sure I explain this. Have you ever walked into a situation where the smell didn't just something that hit your nose, it assaulted your person? Like it hit me and I was like, oh, I thought I had stepped into a CSI crime scene. Like it smelled so bad. And I was like, oh, and now I'm rethinking the lineup of speed dating cab drivers, but they're all gone. And so now I'm like, I guess I'm going to get in. And as I get in, I see that there is food trash all over the floor. And I'm like, I don't think this is what, I don't know Uber personally, but I think Uber would not be okay with this. So if you ever, when you're getting in a car, you'll usually kind of, you'll put your hand down on the seat to be able to brace yourself as you're getting in. The car was lower because Fast and the Furious. And so like I get in the car and I put my hand down and I go to put my book down, but as I put my hand down, the seat is wet. And so everything that I've ever thought about the possibility of ride sharing is out the window. And so as he sees this, I know I have to say something. See something, say something. I've seen, felt, smelled. It's time to bring this. Need to talk to Eric Zoolander up front about what's happening. And so I kind of say, hey, I immediately get, he is full Californian. All the bros and bras. He's like, hey, brah, sorry about the back seat. My last ride, they were really messy, and I'm going to clean it up, but I just wanted to pick you up first. And I was like, no, that order is out of order. Like, you should have cleaned up and let, Susan with the minivan pick me up, and you go clean up all of that. And so we ride, and when you do a ride-sharing thing, it'll prompt you to then ask if you want to do a tip, and it doesn't let you write a tip to them instead of giving them monetary value, because I wanted to say clean your car, but it didn't, so I'm not going to be that guy, and so I'm like, he needs a tip to go through the thing and clean the car, and so did a little bit of a tip, and especially since we had talked, and I was, hey, what are you here for? I'm like, here for a retreat for people that love Jesus, and then if you don't give a tip, then he's like, argh. And so gave a tip and get out of the car, but then you get the thing where you get to fill out a review, and so I fill out the review, and I almost immediately get a call from an Uber representative. They're like, we're really sorry, or whatever. What can we do to make this better? And I said, I'm not mad. I'm terrified for Ryan. Like and I explained the whole thing and explained that the outside everything was fine, and just the experience was bad, but we'll give it another shot. And so they gave me credits for another ride, and I'm like, don't send Ryan, whatever. Didn't say. But on the way there, and I have these moments where I process stuff, and as I'm sitting in the smell and the food and the wet over there, and I have this kind of moment where I go, that's me. I have moments where I love to make the outside look amazing, and then the inside is complete trash. Moments where I make everything look good, like the girl that I watched at Panera stand on a chair and take over 15 photos of her food until she got it right, and all the placement and everything, and set it there, and then when she ate it, she looked like she didn't like it. But everybody on Instagram thinks it was amazing. I have moments where everything looks good on the outside, but I think things about people that make me feel like I'm not good enough. I have moments where people look at our family out in public and they say, you guys, your kids are so good. And what they didn't see before we got out of the car was that I basically told them that I would murder them if they didn't act properly on the inside of the store. Like, I love you. You will see Jesus today. Want to see him? Yeah. All right. They don't see that ugly side. Or the moments where I see somebody do something that I know that they shouldn't, and instead of believing the best about them, I make assumptions that I know are not okay. You see, each and every one of us, and over this teaching, Jesus said, I want to talk to the core of who you are. Not the outside, not the pretty Facebook posts, not the pre-staged 45 photo Instagram selfie. Not the in-the-store experience, but I want to talk to the person that sat in the van in the parking lot that before they came in were smiling, were yelling at their family before they came into church. No one was doing that. I want to talk to that person, is what Jesus says. I want to talk to the core of who you are, because I want to be able to see something different in your life, because the way that you're doing it is not how I designed you. He shares with us that we have a better way in him, a way that is so good if we would just grab hold and follow his son Jesus. You see, think what we need to understand is that living blessed is about the interior, not the exterior, the interior. And that my prayer for us is that we would have a heart for heavenly things in heavenly ways. That God, what you are doing and what you are creating and what you want for us is amazing. And I want to do that in ways that your son Jesus models, and I want to do that through my everyday interactions. Everything that I do. That's my prayer for you and I. That we would actually live out what Jesus has called us to live out. And if you're new to church or someone's brought you this morning or they promised you lunch and then drug you here, we don't condone that, but I'm glad you're here. And you may not be on track with some of these things, but I want you to know that if you practice the very teachings of Jesus, that your life will be exponentially better and you will get a glimpse of God's goodness and beauty. I believe that even if you don't believe in God this morning, that you have problems with the Bible, I want to let you know that I read the Bible and I have some problems with it too. I don't like some of the things that are in there. But what I do know is that Jesus is good. And that Jesus has a plan for you and I. And that Jesus loves us deeply. And he has some teaching that leads us into places that bring out the best in how we were created to be. And he has two roadblocks that he believes will detrimentally wreck our journey towards him. We're going to look at those two today. If you have a Bible, I'd love for you to turn over to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6 in the New Testament of the Bible. If you don't have one, two ways. You can go to the lobby for you guys who are here, or if you're more digitally inclined, and for you guys watching online, you can go to forefrontchurch.info. That is like our digital hub of everything there. And in Matthew chapter 6, starting in verse 19, Jesus jumps into the first hurdle that will keep us if we're not careful. And here's what's the problem with hurdles. Many times, oftentimes, we see a hurdle and we want to run away from it. We go, God, and when Jesus wants us to slow down, approach it, go over it, and grow in the process, we go, I want to find another way. Like I shared in the beginning, we were at Catalyst this week in Atlanta, and one of our staff was driving around. I'm not going to mention any names because they did a phenomenal job, but they also had two, you ever had two people that want to tell you where to go in a car? That's fun. And so one of the people was very loose. I mean, I would say that they were more like, we could go that way if you want to. I'm like, the GPS says this. And then the other person was like, we need to go this way. Don't go that way. Don't go that way. Don't go that way. Don't go that way. We need to go this way. Very like analogous. You had two personalities that were like polar opposites. And the person in the front seat's like, I am driving with Sybil. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not quite sure what's happening. And so they were trying to do their job. And so we were trying to go to one place and we turned to a neighborhood. Most neighborhoods don't have speed bumps. There's only one that I really drive through, and it's over there in the Kempsville area, and they put these speed bumps through because it's kind of a cut through. And I'm like, why did you put the speed bumps? But I know that they're there. Our driver has never driven in this neighborhood before. And we're trying to get to the location. And I don't want to say that the driver was going over 25 miles per hour, but they were. And so we were driving, and if you've ever hit a speed bump going too fast, and you didn't see it, I believe they did not see it at all. And you don't see it, they launched two of our people in the back seat up out of the thing, which is a fun experience for a moment until you hit your head, and then you're filing workman's comp claims, the whole thing. And so we're driving, and I go, man, we probably need to, and I don't think that they meant to say it, but we gave the person a hard time the whole time they were driving. They're like, I don't understand why you're giving me a hard time. I'm like, you see, you almost killed two people in the back seat. Maybe, I don't know. But they didn't see it. They just charged it, went after it, and hit. I think too often we see a speed bump. We don't charge it. We don't go near it. We go, Jesus said, and we go, no, I'm going to go this way. And so Jesus has two things that he said, if you can address these in your life, it will drastically change who you are in what it means to be blessed by me. It starts over in chapter 6, in verse 19. It says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in where? Heaven. Treasures in heaven, where moth and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart will what? Be also. What he's saying is, all of the things, he is not saying, oh, can't have stuff. What he is saying is there's a hurdle involved in your movement with me, with God, and it has everything to do with where we put our trust. You see, even in that word treasure, what it's referring to in the Greek, it's thesaurus, which refers to storehouse of valuables. This is also where we get the English word thesaurus, which is a storehouse for synonyms. So as we look at this word and we see this, we say, all right, this is about storing up, because people argue, well, whatever. No, it's things. It is finances. It is time. It is house. It is car. It is job. It's the 2.5 kids, which I still haven't worked out what the 0.5 looks like. You just have legs running around. It's all of the possessions in there. And he's not saying you can't have possessions. But he's saying, do those things define you? You need to be about things that are above. If people go, I don't want to be about things above, actually I can't be about things above because God hasn't given me what I need because I'm in debt, we have this, we have that. And I go, wait a second, you're in all these things. Could it be that maybe some of your choices led you down there? Let's not talk about choices because, no, you don't understand. Because if God is good and I'm trying to follow God and do whatever, well, God calls you not to live beyond your means. And it seems like you have more house that you need and you decide to have way more kids than you probably should have for the job that you have, and you have a lot of stuff, but you also have a smartphone, and that comes with a data plan. Now all the kids have to have smartphones. Oh, if they don't have a smartphone, they're going to be mad. Let them be mad. They're kids. They're going to be mad anyway. Like, you have all this stuff, then you go, I don't understand why I'm here. And I go, well, how are you about practicing the things above? They go, well, I can't practice things above because I don't have what I need. And so I got to worry about that. Been reading this book by Craig Groeschel. He's a pastor in Oklahoma, and it's called Hope in the Dark. About halfway through, and I hit a spot where I go, ooh, that stings a little. See, what he shared about circumstances in this is that God's delays are not his denials. See, just because God hasn't done something on the time frame that you and I want him to does not mean that he has denied us those things. Could it be that we just haven't moved in the way that we're supposed to move? And God goes, I'd love to do that in your life. You just are going to kind of do the same thing you've always done, and so I'm going to withhold this until you decide to move honorably. Or maybe we could put it a little more simply, that God will provide your daily treasures when you focus on the heavenly ones. My wife and I had this opportunity not too long ago. My little car, I drive a little Scion XD. It's a roller skate. Beep, beep. It is not a manly car by any stretch of the imagination. It is I want to drive a car that is paid for because I have 3 children car. But my wife calls me up while I'm here at the office. She says, hey, the car is making a shaking feeling. What do you mean shaking? She said, I feel like my neck is about to break. I said, get it home right now. I said, how far are you? She said, I'm only like a mile away. I said, drive it home, park it. So I go home and I turn on the car, and as I turn on the car and get it, have not even put it in gear. It is on and in park, and the car is doing this, and I turn it off and I hold my neck. You go, I don't know much about cars, but I know that it's not good. So I drive it up to the little shop that's right around the corner from us, and then I drive our van, which was already scheduled, to go get tires on it. And we follow the Dave Ramsey plan. The Dave Ramsey plan says you need to have an emergency fund. And so we had an emergency fund to put tires on the van, but we didn't have an emergency fund for the car. And so as I'm there, a friend here from Forefront was working, hey, getting the tires, and awesome job, and they took care of us. He says, hey, I was like, well, the little car's in the shop, and he's like, what's going to happen? I said, I don't know. I said, it's doing this. He said, that's not good. And so I was like, yeah. And he's like, I know cars, and so just tell me what it is, and then and so I get the call from the car place, and they're like, yeah, it's going to be, here's what's going on. The rest of the stuff's going to go. So it's going to be between like $1,500 and $2,000 to fix your car. And I died inside because I knew that all the money that we had in the uh-oh fund was going to the tires. We didn't have the oh no fund. And so get the tires, and I messaged the friend. He said, tell me exactly. I message him. And he says, hey, here's a list of parts that you need to get. It'll cost you about $200. I can come over. I can fix it in 10 minutes. I was like, are you an angel? Like, what are you? says, no, like, can I pay you? No, just give me like a Mountain Dew and I'll be fine. And I was like, you've saved me like, $1,500+. And so sure enough, I go out and buy the parts, get all the stuff, and it ended up being cheaper, and get him there, and he comes in and does some Harry Potter wizardry, and it's done. Turn on the car, and it's like, I'm happy, come on, get happy. Like everything is going on. And I said, man, thank you. Like, what can I do? Don't do anything, do anything. I just want to drink or whatever. And I'm like, I can't do that. And so I tried to thank them with a gift card. And he said, no. I said, well, you've been generous to me. You need to give me opportunity to be generous. And this is a little good rule of thumb. I talked with 2 different people after service, said I have a hard time accepting generosity. Said it is, if you're a believer and you practice generosity and then you deny people the opportunity to be generous, you are sinning. Don't practice generosity and lift yourself up and then deny people the opportunity to practice what you practice. Just probably somebody that needs to hear that this morning. And so what that person didn't know is that we were going through, I didn't explain to them that we had done the uh-oh fund and not the oh-no fund and everything. They did not know that. But the whole time, my wife and I, as we had that conversation, it was right around payday, and we'd go, what are we going to do? And this is not to point at us. I'm saying this is what a principle is if you're a believer, is that we said we're going to give to the church. And we have people in our life that need help, and so we're going to help them because that's what it was allotted to. And go, well, God, we'll figure this out. We don't know what we'll do, like whatever. And then this came in. And I want to tell you that there have been instances time and time again where we didn't have the oh-no fund or even the uh-oh fund because those things happen in waves, if you know what I'm saying. It's like 1 and then 10, and you're like, go, and you're drowning. And God has always provided. We've never gone without food. We've never gone without shelter. We've never gone without clothes, which everyone is thankful for right now. And God has provided. And if you want to move through that hurdle, God will provide your daily treasures when you focus on heavenly ones. But the thing is, and this comes into the next piece, is that we get discouraged if we don't get provided for the way we want to. I want a bigger house. I want a bigger car. I want a better job. I want better things. Someone got the new iPhone. I don't have the new iPhone. I want it. I'm with Team Android. I'm sorry. Like, we move through all these things, and we just go, I want more. And if we don't have it and we blame God for it, we start to take it out on other people. And we aim our sights on the judgment of others. So it's interesting that in chapter 7, Jesus follows this up. Starting in verse 1, he says, do not judge or you will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. I don't know about you, but I read that and I gulp and go, oh no. Because there have been moments where I have not divvied it out the way God designed me to. Continues on, verse 3. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Verse 4. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? Then Jesus puts it out pretty plainly. He says, you what? Hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see to clearly remove the speck from your brother's eye. Went out into my garage. I'm mildly handy, which means I'm kind of like Tim the Toolman Taylor and get hurt a lot. And so we have a bandsaw out there, and I got a little bit of sawdust from there. I mean, it's tiny. It's almost nothing. And I think in the Christian life, it makes it real easy to look at someone else's life when we're disgruntled about what God's doing. It makes it easy if we don't want to address the things in our own life and go, hey, look at you, without looking at the thing that's happening in our own life. I was out to lunch with a friend from here, and we were at Chipotle because the Lord is good, and we were eating burritos and talking, and he had a little something on his cheek, and so I was trying to tell him, hey man, you got a little something there. Why? Because I'm a good friend. And he did that, and he's like, hey, God, he said, hey, man, while we're at it, you got, he's like, you might want to take out your phone. And I take out my phone. If you haven't noticed, I have a little bit of facial hair. and I take out my phone and I flip the camera around, and my burrito has had a malfunction, and I have what looks like the state of California of goo from my burrito in my beard. It's the reason they call it a flavor saver. Like, it was to the point where I was like, I'll be right back. I need to go to the bathroom and handle this. So I go and I clean up. I think far too often we want to point out that thing, oftentimes not like it's a, hey, I want to help you out, but I want to show you what you're doing wrong with that little sawdust. Well, all the while we have this going on in our own face. It's pretty difficult to see the struggles of other people in the little things that are going on when we have a gigantic plank in our face. Not going to be able to see very clearly or discern things very well, or be able to help someone else if you have this blocking you in every single direction. See, what I've learned is I've found the planks in my eye and looked at the things in other people's eyes. I need to deal with me first, because judgment always begins with me. Judgment always begins with me. Because when I want to cast judgment on somebody else, usually it's out of my own insecurities, my own hurts, my own flaws, my own I don't feel good enough, I don't feel like God has moved enough. And so I want to look and I want to bring other people down in my judgment. You say, that's why Jesus shares with them, hey, listen, don't worry about this little stuff here. Oh, by the way, you have something huge in your own face, in your own life that you need to deal with. And that's a pretty humbling process to go, all right, God, how can we not see this? Because we just want to hide it, we want to dress it up, we want to put some pretty stain on it, put a little sign by who built it, going to make a fancy gate, and we're going to do all that stuff, but it's still there. Doesn't matter how we dress it up, sin is still sin. But when we see it, when we begin to address it, we can claim victory in it. We can claim that God is doing that work, that we can watch healing happen. And what I love is that when we help other people, when we experience the victory, but I want to help you not to judge. Grow people up, don't call them out. Far too often I meet believers who just want to say, I want to let them know what they're doing. Do you? Or do you want to make yourself feel better by shaming them? You see, the Christian life is one that helps build people up, not call them out. It's a denial of self. Maybe we would put it this way, that connection with God always starts with a departure from somewhere, something, or someone. That if I turn towards God and begin to move in that direction to follow Jesus, it means that something else gets left what? Behind. Or maybe we need to put it this way, that heart transformation in Jesus to a blessed life always begins with something dying. Something has to be put to death for something else to start to live. The table that you have in your house, a tree had to die and be carved to make something beautiful. See, Jesus wants to do that in your life and mine and take some things that need to die. You see, I had a friendship, some things that died in my life. I had a friendship of over 20 years that went horribly wrong. A person that I was friends with got into some very awful things. Did some things that my prayer is that they regret and learn from and move forward. But our relationship severed. You know, whatever, since that point for a good amount of years, I didn't want to trust or be around anyone. But when I started to evaluate what happened, I realized that when that friendship died, it taught me about what real friendship is like. And now I have a few friends, but I have two very close friends who I would, and I could say generally, I would give my life for them. And I've learned what it meant to be a friend now and live it fully, because one friendship had to die. Maybe when it comes to judgment, some things need to die. You see, being in a role like this, I get judged a lot for all sorts of things. I either speak to, you don't get deep enough, or you got too deep, or you wore a V-neck shirt on stage, we're not coming back. That's a real Google review, by the way. Whew. Younger me would have been really angry when I hear those things, but I know that I serve the King, and I don't serve man, and so I don't really worry about those critiques anymore. But when you're judged, it gives you a new understanding to either get bitter or get better. And so what I've done is I want to let judgment die and judge less or not at all and live in joy. And so something had to die in those moments and learn and experience that to be able to move in what was true. I've lost stuff. Coming from mom and dad who didn't have a lot, and they tried to lavish us. That was kind of the boomer generation. We didn't grow up with much, so let's give you everything, to the point of being in tremendous debt. And so I took care and valued every single thing that I have, which is why when my wife says, I get something on my shirt, and I'm like, ugh, and she's like, it's just a shirt. I'm like, I have 7 shirts, and I'm going to guard them with everything because I want to care for my things. It's not about stuff, but I've learned over the time as things have, shirts get ruined and things happen and stuff gets broken, whatever, I just go, it's just stuff. And I've learned to put my treasure in heavenly things and not in earthly things. Yeah, I have stuff, but my focus is on above. See, living the blessed life is about the internal, about a heart transformation. A heart that wants heavenly things and heavenly ways and will do that with everyday actions. But as we kind of wrap up, I just want to pose this question for you. What will you lay down to die so that you can stand and live? See, every single one of us has something that needs to be killed today. Pride, anger, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's a false sense of self-worth or self-value that you just go, I'm not good enough because Satan has told you some lies and you began to believe them. Maybe what needs to die today is the fact that you think God is some celestial curmudgeon in the sky that wants to just pound down on you every single time you do something wrong, and that is not the movement of God at all. God wants to set you and I free, and he does that through the movement of Jesus. Maybe something that needs to die today. Here's a good kind of movement example. The Kavanaugh, verdict there, where they confirmed him. For some of you, that confirmation led you down a road, and we can talk about politics because I don't care. It led you down a road when they confirmed him to lash out at everyone and everything. Anyone who would think that's okay is stupid. I can't believe they came to that. I'm going to be so angry. I'm writing everyone. And you lash out online. You need to seek Jesus, and something needs to die for you today. But the flip side of that, if you look at the people that said that it was wrong, and you go, I can't believe them, they're liberal, they're this, they're that, they have an agenda, I can't stand them, and you lash out online and you speak ill of other people because of a decision, like God is not still sitting on the throne, you need to seek Jesus. You see, every single thing that happens polarizing, whether it's in politics or in our country or in your home or under your roof or at your workplace or in your relationships or with your kids, there are things that will spring up as hurdles that need to die so that you and I can have a heart that's transformed to serve God the Father. And that is a daily picking up of that cross and saying, God, I know I'm not good enough. Thank you that you love me. And I want to move through and stand up and live. And so I'm going to let those things die because I don't want to die on that hill of politics, of a two-party system, on whether or not my team won the game today, and I'm going to lash out and throw things like a 5-year-old. I'm not going to yell at my kids because my kids need to see an honorable man and woman. And I'm going to be an honorable coworker because you know what? I want people to meet Jesus through my life. Something today has to die for every single one of us so that you could truly live. What's it for you? And why would you choose to carry it out with you? Because it would look really crazy carrying around dead things all throughout the city. You'd look like a maniac. You'd get arrested. But you do it spiritually every day. let it die so that you can live. Would you pray with me? Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.